Hey indie game fans! Once again, I have uncovered a bunch of indie game hidden gems for you to check out, beginning with HYPERCHARGE Unboxed. Call it Army Men, G.I. Joe, or the action-packed version of Toy Story, this is a co-op first-person shooter with tower and wave defense elements, where you fight off a bunch of off-brand toys such as Beyblades, dinosaurs, and tanks. Being a miniature toy yourself, I do like it when games shrink you down in an everyday environment, so explore the bedroom or very Toys R Us-like toy store in the different levels. All human beings love to play in one sense or another, so it really hit me in the feels, but this is unquestionably better with some friends. Another local multiplayer title makes the list with OCTAFIGHT, which, as it proposes, supports up to 8 players in a fight to the death. Being a fan of pixel art, the art style in this really does speak to me, with some pretty impressive levels and backgrounds, with the developer self-describing it as over-pixelated pixel art, so something a little different but unique and beautiful in its own way. All characters are identical, with shooting, launching and detonating bombs at the right time being the most critical part of the combat.
Yay!
Another moving adjacent title which got my attention last month is Totally Reliable Delivery Service, a hilarious physics game which is trying to follow in the footsteps of games like Human Fall Flat, Gang Beasts, and Goat Simulator. Play as a bumbling employee of a courier company who must get packages from point A to point B while driving a large variety of vehicles from forklifts to planes. In a similar way, the ragdoll physics and controls usually results in some form of hilarity and in my opinion would be best with some friends. There are some complaints of bugs and jank, of getting stuck in objects and clipping through things, and while I myself did not encounter any of that, it should be a concern, so hopefully it would have been fixed by now. Pure survival games used to be all the rage before Battle Royale came around, and one which was a very pleasant surprise last month was Nira. Of course, the comparison has to be Forager, but this is more survival focused, with its fair share of missions, crafting, base building, fishing, cooking, and even an RPG leveling system. There are swords and guns, alpacas and planes, goblins and elephants and so on, so quite a wide range of themes and setting. As such, it's a weird mishmash but does have a wonderful, simple pixel art style. It has been getting steady patches, so it looks like I'll stick with this through early access. Yet another neat turn-based tactics title last month is the superhero-flavoured Sentinels of Freedom. Stop crime and evil as a typical bank heist evolves into so much more. Similar to Fort Triumph, there are plenty of environmental interactions, but here, there are even combo moves between your characters. The superhero theme is very neat, very City of Heroes-like, and this is written by the creators of Sentinel Comics, which as far as I can tell, is a tabletop RPG which is pretty well received.
There you go. It's Lord of the Manor. I know what you're thinking. My dog wouldn't even use that as a toilet. But I'm telling you, with a little graft, we'll get this onto the market in no time.
A very over-the-top British title is Landlord'S Super, set in 1980s Britain, and is basically open-world house flipper. However, you do have to do most of the things yourself, such as mixing concrete and building houses brick by brick.
You can find this stuff all over. Just make sure folks don't catch you. Don't give me that look. This is enterprising work I'm offering you. Mrs. Thatcher would be proud. Besides, you do well to listen to me, kid. I can teach you all.
This is from the developer of the car mechanic road trip simulator Jalopy, and feels quite similar in many ways, and despite being in early access, the core gameplay loop is complete, but there are more characters and more ways to build in the coming months.
All I know is, at the end of the day, when you've got a belt full of tools, limitless earning potential, and pockets lined with cash, you'll be saying, "Aye, Scouse, you was right. Let me buy you a drink." And I'll say, "Cheers, kid. Mine's a nice, cool pint of Landlord's Super."
We've been told some of us are better than the others. We've been told it's never going to change. We've been told it is time to turn the tables. We've been told that we are enemies.
A great management survival title launched last month with the wintry Help Will Come Tomorrow. Set against the backdrop of the October Revolution, a Trans-Siberian train crashes in the wilderness and a group of unlikely passengers must work together to survive. Manage your action points in between scavenging for resources, exploring the surrounding area, cooking, crafting, and upgrading your camp. There are 9 different characters, which have their own socio-economic backgrounds and political beliefs, from a military officer to a revolutionary, where conversation choices at night in camp will affect how every character perceives each other, snowballing into camp morale and the cohesiveness of the group. Pretty brutal as you would expect for a survival game in the Siberian wilderness, but a good one to check out. One of the better, smaller roguelites that released out of nowhere is GUTWHALE, where you fight your way through the digestive system of said whale while managing your ammo, since you only have 1 bullet. Both you and your enemies die in 1 hit, so it is about spatial awareness as you fire and run after your shot. Think Downwell crossed with Gunner and you get the idea. The Wild West still holds plenty of appeal as a setting, and one which takes it in the fantastical direction is Wild West and Wizards, where, as advertised on the box, has you playing as a spell and gunslinging wizard. This is an open world adventure where there are many missions and objectives, a main questline, puzzles, NPCs, leveling up, abilities, loot, and so on, so for an indie team to make this is quite the impressive piece of work. This felt rather like Fallout 3 to me, with a lower polygonal art style and not as grimy, but if you do love open world games and are sick of the content spam of something like Assassin's Creed, perhaps give this one a shot. Unformed is a very 2D Souls-like title, akin to Salt and Sanctuary, but with an Eastern theme. All your analogues for souls, bonfires, and so on are present, with quite the beautiful art style, reminding me a little bit of Samurai Jack. Fair warning though, being in early access, this one is in quite a rough state, especially with the UI elements and translation, so a little while more to go before this gets a wholehearted recommendation. It is no secret that my favourite logic puzzle game is Picross, so of course, Pixel Cross Adventure got my attention. In quite a classic setup, the villain has turned many items into black and white pixels, so it is up to our heroes to restore them back to their original form. A Picross game with a narrative will keep me playing, and there are a variety of optional quality of life improvements, including automatically filling up blanks, hiding the timer, and so on. Love the art and characters in this. Grand strategy titles are not usually my thing, so it says something that Plebby Quest The Crusades makes the list. This is a Civilization or Crusader King style strategy game of empire building and crushing your enemies, while brokering alliances and keeping control of the religious factions within your own country. There's resource management, research, and even a little bit of control during the battles, not to mention quite the interesting character and unit designs. There's both a scenario mode where you follow a single character, or a more open, freeform sandbox mode that opens up the world for conquest. To me, a casual dabbler in 4X titles, this one seems pretty good, but I'm not sure how hardcore fans feel about it. Many of you gravitated to this title when I showed it off, since Mini Healer is an RPG title where you play as the healer, protecting your party as you embark on raid-like boss fights. Healers and tanks, for that matter, are underappreciated, so it's about time that someone shone a light on them, with loot, leveling, and so on. This is a very MMORPG style of healer, with managing ability cooldowns being critical, and while there is a little bit of a grind, the pixel art certainly helps it along. This is currently in early access, with plans to add a simple story, more spells, artifacts, an additional talent tree, and more endgame content over the next 6 to 12 months, but it certainly is a steal at its current price. The trading simulator Merchant of the Skies launched in 1.0 last month and has you playing as the captain of an airship, taking cargo and crew from one floating kingdom to the next. Buy low and sell high in order to earn the maximum amount of profit and use that to purchase various upgrades. While I'm not the biggest fan of the art of the buildings in this, the skyscapes, clouds and various creatures like the majestic carrot are wonderfully done. There is a base building element where you can purchase islands and build farms on them, as well as missions and objectives, with the main hook to restore the world to its former glory. If you love exploration and discovering cool locations, this is one to pick up. I absolutely love the art, theme and gameplay of The Wind and the Wilting Blossom, since this is an FTL style roguelite that uses turn-based combat on a hexagonal grid using the style of classic Japanese paintings as its aesthetic. Being a fan of roguelites, the presence of the node map is comforting, and add to that a range of enemies, both human and yokai. In more ways than one, this does actually remind me of Shigatari, which was a game that I liked, so I'm excited to see this game develop through early access, taking the #1 spot. To see more of the big picture, check out these awesome videos and I will see you after the jump.